Want to spice up your deck building? The cards I'm about to show you can go in literally any Commander deck, and they're all under $1. These cards are all some of my favorites, and I include them in pretty much every deck I build, and they're almost always sleeper hits. As per usual, I'm your host Jordan, and this is the EDH Jank Center, your source for everything Commander and everything Jank, and this is a list of 5 colorless cards you can put in every deck. Let's dive in. Our first card up today is a favorite of the channel. It is Tyrite Sanctum. It is a colorless land. This one's from Dominaria United Commander. You can tap to add 1 colorless mana. You can tap 2 and tap it. Target legendary creature becomes a god in addition to its other types. Put a +1/+1 counter on it. You can pay 4 and tap it to sacrifice it and put an indestructible counter on target god. Just look at all this stuff that it does. I love it. This is truly one of my pet cards. I put it in almost every deck that I build personally. It comes in untapped, so you can use it right away, and if your opponents aren't paying attention, you can make your commander or other very awesome creature indestructible. Once I have enough mana in play to do that last ability, what I typically like to do is leave up 2 mana and it on someone else's turn, and then in response to their end step, tap it, make one of my creatures a god and put a +1/+1 counter on it, and then on my turn, I can just immediately pay the 4, tap it and sack it, and put an indestructible counter on my creature. I think that last ability is pretty much worth it to run in most decks, especially ones that can recur the land back to your field so you can use it over and over again on multiple creatures. It basically turns your Yoshimaru Ever Faithful into a Theros god, the flavor is outstanding. And because it's an indestructible counter, we can use certain shenanigans to move that counter around if need be. And I think that's pretty cheeky. Pretty cool. All right, next up on the list, we got Stonespeaker Crystal, 4 colorless mana artifact from Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate. You can pay 2 and tap it to add 2 colorless mana. You can pay 2 and tap it to sacrifice Stonespeaker Crystal, exile any number of target players' graveyards, draw a card. For most players, I feel like paying 4 for a mana rock is a bit too much for them, but here on the Jank Center, we love this kind of stuff. But honestly, I think this has a lot of merit, especially if you run a commander that has a high CMC, because not only is it great as a mana rock, because mana rocks can tap immediately as they come in because they're artifacts and not creatures, and thus aren't affected by summoning sickness, you can also pay 2, sack it, and it's graveyard hate for any number of target players, so you don't even have to target yourself. You can just nuke a bunch of your opponent's graveyards and then draw a card. So for 1 to 2 more mana than your typical mana rock, you get immediate ramp, asymmetrical graveyard hate, and a little bit of card draw. And then on top of that, if you're running artifact shenanigans, you can just recur this and use it over again. Like, get out of here, dude. That is a 10 out of 10 slapper right there. As we're on the topic of mana rocks, I'd like to show you another one if you'd be so kind. It is Replicating Ring, 3 colorless mana snow artifact from Kaldheim. You can tap it to add 1 mana of any color. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a night counter on Replicating Ring. Then, if it has 8 or more night counters on it, remove all of them and create 8 colorless snow artifact tokens named Replicated Ring with tap, add 1 mana of any color. Now, I'd say this is the sneakiest card on the list. As a mana rock, it does pretty well in multicolor decks because it taps for 1 mana of any color, which is great ramp, but a lot of people would say that it takes way too much time for that ability to go off, which I get it, but if this ability does go off, it explodes into so much mana for you. You can exploit this mana in so many different ways. I don't even have to tell you, you know a lot of mana is just a generally good thing in MTG, but with all the new proliferate support that's out currently, that 8 or more night counters clause is not hard to reach at all, especially if you're running something like Vorel that can double counters. And lastly, let's say that this is like on the field and it's close to getting the 8 night counters clause, but you have like a ton of other threats on the board. Your opponents can be hard pressed to choose which thing to remove, effectively making this a really great decoy. I know it's not like the greatest card in the world, but this is the Jank Center, so don't at me. Anyways, let's move on, shall we, mate? It's Crashing Drawbridge, 2 colorless mana, artifact creature wall from Throne of Eldraine. It has Defender. You can tap it, and creatures you control gain haste until end of turn, and it's a 0/4. That was the most excruciating card intro I think we've ever had, so that's lovely. But this is a pretty simple tech here, guys. This is just a haste enabler in all colors because it's colorless, and yeah. You just tap it, crash the drawbridge down, and then your creatures can go nuts. But hey, you know what I go nuts for? The Patreon. But all bad intros aside, we do have a Patreon. The link is in the description below. We have lots of really cool benefits for patrons, including a patron-only Discord, which currently is the cutest little MTG nerd community ever. I have a $1 tier that gives you access to it. I try to keep it super affordable and accessible. There's also like other really cool benefits if you do a higher tier, but yeah, if you'd like to help out the channel or be a part of the Discord, check that out. Now let's move on to our last card of the day, which is Sanctuary Blade, 2 colorless mana artifact equipment from Commander 2020. As Sanctuary Blade becomes attached to a creature, choose a color. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has protection from the last chosen color, and the equip cost is 3. So this is obviously great in any Voltron build. Giving you protection from a certain color so you can swing in unabated is amazing. However, I think this also belongs in most Commander decks, if not all of them. If your commander does something that is dope and cool, your opponents will not want you to do that dope and cool thing multiple times or even once. So they're going to use their, most of the time, part of the color pie removal on your commander. You can ensure that your commander is safe and snuggled, so warm and is little on your freaking side of the battlefield by equipping it with this and giving it protection from, say, black or green or red. Which means that a creature with protection from blue, for example, cannot be blocked by blue creatures, dealt damage by blue creatures, or enchanted, damaged, or otherwise affected by blue cards. And it also buffs your power. I mean, like, come on, dude. That's a pretty friggin' spicy meatball. And just like that, guys, we are at the end of yet another video. Thank you so much for watching. If you dug this content, make sure you give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what colorless cards you love to run in your decks. Did I miss anything? I'm always down there interacting with you guys, so come on down and have a chat with me. All right, guys, that's it for me. I will see you on the next video.